Hello and welcome to Your Employment Matters. I'm Beverly Williams and I'm here to help you navigate your career. This is for anyone who's searching for their dream job or promotion, or perhaps you're just looking to hang on to the job you have. Today's work environments are multi-generational, multi-religious, multinational, multiracial, and multi-gender identity. Add market disruptors like Amazon and Lyft, along with the addition of AI, and it's easy to see why finding and keeping a job is such a challenge. Employment success and even employment survival depend on your ability to adapt. That's why my goal for this 30-minute podcast is to first advocate embracing change and differences, and second, to encourage you to proactively assume responsibility for your career. Get your work week off to a good start by listening to Your Employment Matters every Monday. Find out how to own your career and get the best practices for making your employment matter. Hello, everyone. It's Beverly again. I have a very special guest today. I'm going to read what he sent me. Now, I want you to keep in mind that I had never met this man before. By happenstance, he was on a webinar that I was also on as a listener, as a participant. And when I heard his story, I thought to myself, he would be a good guest for my podcast, because the situation he described was the kind of situation that I saw people in around 2008, and what I heard from them and the sadness and the embarrassment that I heard in their voices made me want to help them be more successful in their job search. It's not hubris. I've had a lot of different kinds of jobs, and I have a good idea about what it takes to get a job, or to get a job at that point and even now. But I'm going to read what my guest, Dr. Robert Ramirez, sent me. In the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis, many were left to pick up the pieces of shattered dreams and dwindling bank accounts. Dr. Robert Ramirez was one of them, but instead of succumbing to despair, he transformed his setback into a powerful comeback. Today, he's an investing and business expert, guiding countless individuals on their paths to financial freedom. In this episode, I sit down with Dr. Ramirez, who is a professor, investment and business expert, author, and speaker. Dr. Ramirez's journey is one of resilience and triumph. After nearly losing everything in 2008. I'm going to introduce now you to Dr. Ramirez, and I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about himself. But the words resilience speaks volumes about how he picked himself up after a monumental setback, moved forward successfully. I wanted to interview him to encourage my listeners that you should never let anyone count you out. You're entitled to a pity party, but it shouldn't last longer than 15 minutes. And then you ratchet up and you move forward. Welcome, Dr. Ramirez. And may I call you Bob?
You sure may. And thank you so much, Beverly, for that introduction. And first of all, I want to start by just thanking you for all the people that you helped. Think about it, the hundreds of podcasts that you've done week after week, month after month, and all the great people you've interviewed and the valuable information that you pass on to people free of charge. And it's just wonderful information, and you've helped so many people. So thank you for that.
Well, that was very kind of you. I hope they're listening. But you're right. I've been very fortunate to have had an opportunity to interview not only an eclectic group of people, but a very accomplished group of people, from former NFL players to Pulitzer Prize winning journalists. I have an interview I'm waiting to get approval to post from a government official, but I have to get the green light for that. But a rock star, who knew?
Yeah.
It's coming together, and I'm very pleased. And when I heard your story, it was like a 360-degree turn, because I was right back where I started. And I thought, this is someone I really need to talk to.
Thank you. I'll be happy to share my story. I think in recent memory, imagine back to, COVID in 2021, 2020. Nobody knew what was going on. All of a sudden, people were asked not to come to the office. And people, we saw it on the TV, we saw it on the media. Thousands of people were going into the hospitals and not knowing what was going on. It's a terrible, sinking feeling. Well, prior to that happened back in 2008, and it happened to thousands of people. All of a sudden, because of the real estate bubble, the stock market just was crashing, and companies were trying to figure out how to downsize their staff. And I was one of those people in 2008. I had a good job. I was director of information technology, which I had done for numerous companies in Southern California. I was making a salary. And all of a sudden, I found that they were interviewing me because my company was bought by another company. And I thought that I would just move on with the new company and they take some of the key employees as well as some of my staff. But no, all they wanted was our data and our technology. And that's all they took with us. The rest of us, we all got laid off. Well, in 2008, it affected so many people. Companies were not hiring at the time. And so my wife and I had to do what's called a short sale on a house. And a short sale is when you sell the house back to the bank for less than what you owe. That's pretty bad itself. It's not a foreclosure because we didn't walk away. We negotiated. But it's still pretty embarrassing to sit down with a bank and tell them that you can't afford to make your house payments. At the time, I had 6 kids. 2 of them were just entering college, 3 of them were teenagers, and 1 was in junior high. And, kids at that age are pretty expensive. They've got lots of needs that they have. They were playing sports and trying to get into college. And I didn't want to let anybody down. But we had to do the short sale. And then we were going to move into a rental that we had. But then we ended up moving into my mom's house for a little bit because my dad had passed away and she was in her late 80s and she needed the help. Well, that turned out to be a blessing in disguise. And it was really great for my mom. And eventually she ended up living with us until she passed away. But I remember standing at the door with my wife after we left the house perfectly spotless clean. We were kind of reminiscing about all the memories we had of this house and raising our kids there. It was tough. And I told my wife, I said, you know what? I'm never going to just depend on one salary again or depend on one employer again for all my wages. I'm going to figure out ways to have passive income, multiple streams of income. I'll have my main one with my employer, but there's certain things that I'm going to change about myself and do. And all that comes in with, 1, having a positive mindset, really, that things will get better, that the cup is half full, not half empty. 2, learning how to add value to everything you do. So if you are working for a company, you add value. It's important to add value in the people that you meet and the companies that you work for, if you're a student, and your courses. So I really paid attention to adding value to all my conversations, people I meet, and my job. And then 3, as I had to rebuild my skills, I learned that all skill sets can be quickly learned. We got 6.5 inches of brain between our ears. And we have so many tools available to learn skills. And we can teach ourselves these skills. And we need to keep up with these skills. Because what I learned, I was in management for so many years, I didn't keep up with all those Microsoft certifications, and I didn't keep up with all those skills that they wanted. So when companies were interviewing me, they said, well, we can see you've been in management for a long time, but what about those Microsoft certifications and all those IBM skills? I didn't have those, so they were not hiring me. And then the fourth thing, I'm a professor, so the fourth thing that I tell my students when I prepare them for their careers is I talk to them about cultural intelligence, and that's CQ. And CQ is basically to train yourself to step into someone else's shoes and to see from their perspective of what they're seeing. Because we all grow up in different environments, different religions, different mindsets, different levels of money. And so that becomes part of everybody's DNA in the brain.
And what was the first word before?
So cultural intelligence.
Cultural intelligence.
I call it CQ. It's something that a lot of people don't pay attention to, but you know that I live outside of Los Angeles, and we've got so many different nationalities that live here. We've got Armenians and Russians and Filipinos and Hispanics and Blacks and Asians and Chinese, and the list goes on and on. And everybody has a different background, maybe even different religion. So that's something that people don't focus on. And I try to alert that to my students to not only pay attention to your mindset, your values, and to be building skills, but pay attention to understanding and learning about people and the different cultures.
It's an opportunity.
That's really important. Yeah. And those are really good opportunities.
They're opportunity, and we don't share that kind of advice enough, because you're right. Our workplaces are very diverse. They're all people from all walks of life, all backgrounds, all socioeconomic groups, all cultures. That's an opportunity to learn a new language, learn about different foods, to eat, to cook, learn about different religions. It broadens you as a person. I'm very fortunate. I have a very eclectic group of friends. There are all kinds of nationalities. And I love to go to their houses for their holidays because the food is so good.
Absolutely.
It broadens me as a person. And I think that we tend to be so insular and isolated. We only deal with people who look and sound and think like we do.
Excellent point. That's exactly the point.
That's to our detriment.
Exactly.
We're missing so much. We're missing so much. And now conversations are so heated and there's so much stress. We're not doing a lot of exchanging ideas and viewpoints. And that, in my opinion, serves to our detriment.
You're so correct. I'll share a quick little story about that. I was speaking at a human resources conference about CQ. And I had most of them came from human resources. And I had them stand up. I said, just stand up for 3 seconds and go up and just say hi to somebody. Meet them, and then very briefly, and then go back to your seat. So everybody got up and walked around, smiled, and found somebody that they didn't know, smiled, and then went back to their seat after saying hi. And I said, do you realize that in those 3 seconds, you formed an opinion about that person? You maybe have decided whether you want to become friends with that person or not. And if you work in HR, maybe you decided really in those seconds whether that person could be a good fit for you to interview for your job. You made all these decisions right away without saying anything more than hi. And that's our quick brain. It's our fight or flight. It's our quick brain making that quick decision. But as human resources people, you got to realize that you got to slow down and let the logical and rational brain work so that you can have a chance to meet that person more fully, interview them, and get to know that person. Because our quick brain, it tells us when we're in trouble. If you see somebody walking towards you very quickly with a bat, you're thinking, oh my gosh, what's going on here? I got to get to safety. But maybe that person was walking quickly towards you with a bat because there's a baseball diamond right behind you and he was late to get to practice. So that's, logically, you got to figure out what's going on. So we all have biases. And part of that, what happens is it creates biases for us. So we have to realize that 100% all of us have biases and we have to know how to handle those biases.
No, you're right. I was out today. It's strange that, you tell that story. I felt this woman coming toward me, and I wasn't really looking at her, but I could feel it. And I turned, and it was fight or flight. And I'm not I'm not one to give into fighting, but I almost felt like I had to protect myself because I didn't know what she was doing. I won't call it an invasion of my space, but I felt that she was closer than I wanted her to be.
Yes.
And it was just that she was picking up something off the floor.
Right? Yeah. But it's life.
I smiled at her, she smiled at me, and we went on about our business. But you're right. We make judgments. We make judgments. And when I started writing the first book, I went to a writing class just to get feedback on what I'd written so far. And after the class, an Indian woman came up to me, a young Indian woman came up to me and asked me to help her. And I said, "How can I help you? And what can I do?" And she said she was looking for a job and there was no one to help her. She had no one to help her. And I started to, I thought to myself, oh, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this. And then I realized this is just what you're trying to do, fool.
Yeah.
It's like, what's wrong with you? It's like slap, 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 slap. What's wrong with you? So I said, okay, send me your resume. And to cut to the chase, she was a CPA in another state. She wasn't licensed to work where she lived as a CPA. I tweaked her resume. I let her read my book, the draft. She got a job offer. She applied for a job. They interviewed her remotely on Zoom or one of those platforms. They offered her a higher level job than she applied for.
Oh, wow.
She was consumed. She submersed herself into whatever that my book said. She practiced. She did everything. Plus, she had credentials.
I sure hope she wrote a good testimony for your book.
She was a good hire. What I'm seeing with a lot of people, and it's not just young people, it's more seasoned individuals, they have a notion of entitlement. The older people, oh, well, I've been doing HR for 25 years and I'm qualified. Yeah, but you look like you're 105. You know what I'm saying? You're not exuding energy. You don't appear to have any get up and go. It's like you're dialing it in. If you're going to have even an interview remotely, you got to pull yourself together.
Yeah.
You have to have some high energy so that they see you have a pulse.
Yeah. That's interesting that you mentioned the generation. There's actually like 4 generations in the workforce currently. We got the baby boomers, we got the Generation Xers, we got the millennials, and Generation Z. And each generation actually, they're all different. And from the millennials down, they seem to have more of an entitlement. Maybe we gave them that because as kids, we all gave them trophies for participation, right? And we told them they were the best at everything. So maybe we created that ourselves. And so now we're dealing with them because
they're back home.
They're back home. So
it's a dilemma that I think we're going to have to face head on. I mean, because I'm afraid that based on what I've been reading lately, employers are not thrilled with the youngest generation in the workplace, and they're terminating them. And when I saw that in one article, I said, oh, well, okay.
Mhm.
But then I saw it in another one.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, this is serious. I wonder if they're aware of this, because I don't think the media has helped. The Great Resignation, media was talking about, oh, employees are in the catbird seat. Oh, they don't want to come back to the office. They're going to get new jobs. And I'm thinking to myself, what employee is in the catbird seat? Are they curing cancer? I don't think so. A friend called and said that a friend of hers, her husband, was working remotely and received a call from his HR person. He was told that they were going to go back into the office in a couple months. And the husband says, well, I would prefer to work from home. That's what I've been doing. That's what I want to continue to do. The HR person says, I'll get back to you. A couple of days later, the HR person gets back to him and says, we accept your resignation.
Wow.
Wow. And that was the first time I heard that, but it wasn't the last time. That is an eye-opening situation.
Well, I'm hearing that many millennials are leaving their jobs as well, and they're not even giving notice. They don't feel like they have to give. We used to always give at least a 2-week notice, right? And if you're in management, maybe it was even a 3-week or month notice to help train somebody else in and provide whatever assistance you could until your last day. Well, now I have some millennial cousins, relatives, nephews, and they just think it's okay to say goodbye to the job. Hey, today's my last day. Well, aren't you going to give us notice? No, I'm not.
Well,
And they move on. It's like, wow.
well, hopefully they don't want to go back.
It's just disrespectful.
Well, first of all, you should never tell your employer that you don't want to go back to work wherever they tell you to go. If you don't want to go back, you should keep it to yourself. And you should either start looking for a job or see if you're financially solvent and how long you can do without employment if you're not willing to go back. I strongly suggest going back to work, saving your money until you can afford to leave. But they don't do that because they have a safety net. They can go home.
Getting back to what I was saying and the changing workforce, I heard you on a podcast, you were talking about AI and how that's going to change things, right? And right now we've got all these big companies using AI more and more. They haven't started the big layoffs yet, but it's coming because they're just learning and figuring out how to use AI in order to reduce the number of employees, because that's usually the biggest expense for a company.
They're just trying to make sure it's reliable.
They're trying to make sure it's reliable, and they're trying to make sure how to use it best for their company.
Yeah.
So if the employees don't figure out how to add value to their job and how to be ahead of it, then they're going to be on the ones looking for a new job. And kind of goes back to what I said about, keeping up your skills, adding value. So important.
And adding skills, not only keeping up the skills that you have, but acquiring new skills to make you more marketable.
Yeah, it's an amazing time that we live in. We've got, I call it professional Google. Everybody can Google information and get something back. But now, even better, we have AI taking the best of the information from Professor Google and summarizing that information for you. We've got YouTube, we got videos, we got so many apps for learning skills. We all need to be learning skills constantly, because otherwise, in 2 years, you're going to be outdated and AI is going to be replacing your job.
But there's a problem. Not everybody, but unfortunately, there are those who will avail themselves of AI and submit it as their work, as opposed to using it wisely, shall we say. especially, as an attorney, I've heard stories of attorneys submitting briefs that were obviously AI generated. And you can't do that. Judges don't like that.
No.
Partners don't like for you to submit that something to them that's obviously AI. But if you get past the partner and you submit it to a judge, you are in big trouble. And it's like, where's your brain? I mean, are you that duplicitous that you think people think they're smarter than they are?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you got to put in the effort, you got to put in the work. But if you do, it can be rewarding. Like what you're doing now, you've hit a sweet spot. Like, when you said a recurring income stream, multiple income streams.
Income, yes.
That's what I advocate in my book. Listen, you got a job, especially there's situations where both husband and wife work for the same company. That's dangerous because when the layoff comes,
yes,
it could be both of you leaving.
Yes.
So it's always better to have a supplemental income stream that it may not carry you 100%, but it could ease your fall. And then you get up again.
Another comment as to what you were saying about AI. AI has biases built in because it's only as good as the data that it has available to it. And so depending on where it got that data from and how much it had of that certain type of data, it's going to have biases. So it's up to us to check the facts and make sure it's correct and just use that as a tool. But also what AI is not good at, where us as human beings, we're so much better at is we've got our senses. We've got our sight and smell and hearing and all the senses that we have. AI can only read the text. And so, I can look at your eyes real quick and tell whether you're engaged, if you're listening, whether you're happy, whether you're sad, what kind of perfume you might have on, right? So humans, we have all these additional sensors that AI doesn't have. So you've got to use it as a tool, but you can't rely on it and enhance anything that you're doing using your sensors. And it's important.
Well, I've used it to give me an outline of it, for an article that I want to write.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, okay, I just have to make sure that I include some of the stuff in it and what I got from AI. I mean, that's huge.
Yes.
But to think that I would use it to write a brief and just copy what they said, that's not smart.
No,
it's not smart at all. Why don't you tell us about your book?
Well, my book is called Achieving Financial Freedom. And as a result of 2008, when I did find a job, I started teaching part-time for a company. I found that I enjoyed it. And then so I ended up getting a full-time job teaching. And eventually I became a professor. Then I went back and got my doctorate degree. And now I'm actually applying for a senior professorship because I've been with my company for 17 years.
Oh,
and my book came about from some of the lessons that I was teaching my students because they wanted to know about financial intelligence. They wanted to learn about multiple streams of income and passive income. And so I started adding value to my lessons in business and teaching them all the steps. Well, first we got to get out of debt. Then we got to have our budget and figure out what our income is and what our expenses are. And then we have to save 3 to 6 months of income. And then we have to start investing it and why the stock market is good. So I started teaching them how to invest in the stock market and create income and create passive income. And so then my next step was, why don't I take all that information that I've been teaching in my courses and put into a book so that more people would have access to that. And that's the way my book came about. And now I'm currently writing another book that's called The Retirement Crisis in America. And I'm writing that book because 11,000 of us baby boomers retire every day. And about 48% of those people are going to run out of money because we're all living longer. And we've got better biological drugs, we're better healthcare, cleaner environments. We
Better
exercise, we eat better,
surgeries.
surgeries. We're living 20, 25 years longer than what we thought we were going to live. And most people, or a good half of the people, are going to run out of money. So if you don't have passive income coming in into your retirement, and if you're not working anymore and you're going to be drawing from your 401k or your investments, that money's not going to last you long enough.
No,
It's really
it's not.
important to have passive income. So my next book is going to just take off on that and that concern of mine that as I'm getting ready to retire, do I have enough money? And what do I have that's coming in that's passive?
But you've positioned yourself to be an earner, a wage earner after retirement.
I have.
That makes a difference. When I left my corporate job, it wasn't hubris. I was so motivated by wanting to help and believing that I could. And I thought it would be easier
Mhm.
than it has been. And I just need to get the book into the right hands, the hands of people who need it. And I've been trying to find sponsors to buy the book and donate the books to underserved communities.
Oh, wow. Beautiful.
So they can, and in exchange, well, they get a write off, but I will deliver training based on the book to help prepare the young people or the people who need it for their job search or their efforts to secure a promotion.
That's a service that's very much needed.
But I haven't been able to find any sponsors. I can't honestly say that I've been working as hard to do that as I should because I haven't had as much time to do it. But I'm committed to it because I put in too much time and too much money, and it's important.
Yes. Yeah, it's very important.
It's
I
important.
think the more you put out the word and the more and stay positive, it will happen. And when it's unexpected, somebody will reach
No,
out.
I believe that. I believe that. I don't have any biological children, but I have like over 10 godchildren and their siblings. And I know that young people don't listen. They hear, but they don't listen. They hear what you're saying, but what do you know? I'm going to do what I want to do. And usually that's what happens. And eventually they come back to me and ask me, well, what should I do now? So my mindset is I put the information out there based on my experience. And like Lin-Manuel Miranda says, I've been in the room where it happens. I've been in the room where decisions about hiring and promotions and firings take place. I'm an employment lawyer, for God's sake. And I'm like, they don't have to believe me. I'll just give it to them and they'll have it when they have it to come back to when they have the epiphany.
Mhm.
Oh, I should have listened. Let me get that book.
Right.
I'm not having them stress me out, Bob. I've tried, but I know them. So, and eventually they do come back. They do. Not
And,
all of them,
and tell
but
me the
enough
name
of
of your
them.
book.
Pardon me?
Remind me of the name of your book.
Oh, your GPS to employment success, how to find and succeed in the right job.
Okay. Because on my website and in my courses, I always give my students
Oh,
book references that they should be reading. So I will include that.
thank you so much. I'll send you a link to the page on the website,
Okay.
on
Yes.
on Amazon too.
Yes. Okay. Do that. And I'll definitely be recommending that book to all my students because it sounds like a wonderful book and it's something they all need. I mean, why are they going to college, right? So they can enhance their skills and get a job.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I'd love to recommend that book.
One of my clients is a gold medalist, an Olympic gold medalist. And I interviewed him. This was before the gold medal.
Mhm.
I interviewed him. He was in Jamaica and I was in New Jersey. And for some reason, it just what the interview wasn't taking. So we tried twice. So then this last Olympic, he was a medalist before. I think it was a bronze. This past Olympics in Paris, his team, the Canadian team, beat the American team, and he was on the Canadian team. So I congratulated him through WhatsApp. And then I said, would you try again to be interviewed? He says, oh, I'm so sorry. I don't have time. He's an Olympic gold medalist now, and he doesn't have time, but he's teaching in a university in Jamaica.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, I'm so proud of young people when they're able to realize their dreams.
Yes.
And it comes with hard work. It comes with dedication. And back to your discussion about the multiple demographics in the workplace, it's an opportunity to learn from each other. And, one group is tech savvy, another one isn't. But another one has the experience of navigating the treacherous waters of employment, of a corporate employer, or just life in general, may have gone through maybe a divorce or a sick child, an illness with a parent or a child. We have things to share. And if we are of that mindset, I think we'll be better off.
That reminds me of a little cartoon that I've seen. It's like, imagine you on one side, me on the other side, and on the ground between us, you put a big number 6, and the person on the left-hand side is pointing at the number. He says, okay, that is a number 6. But the person on the other side says, what are you saying? That's not a number 6. That's a number 9, right? And it's about, you haven't seen life from my side, right? Because I'm seeing it as a 9, and the other person on the other side is seeing it as a 6. So you have to step into the other person's shoes to see what they're seeing.
It's too easy to dismiss people. And if you don't know people who are different than you, if you haven't exposed yourself to different things and different ways of thinking, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's very unfortunate. It's a missed opportunity in my opinion. In my opinion. Is there anything you want to leave our listeners with, Bob?
Well, I want to remind them that the name of my book is called Achieving Financial Freedom, and it's building wealth through passive income in the new digital age of financial intelligence. So in the book, I even talk about things like cryptocurrency and blockchain. What is that? Teach them about investing and electronic trade funds, which are really good to buy in the market, and how to get out of debts. And just, I have a whole system on teaching people. So that's out there. It's also, you can order it from my website, and you can find me under Dr. Robert Ramirez, and you'll learn a little bit more about me. And what I also provide is I provide a free 30-minute consultation for anybody that needs some advice.
Now, is your website drrobertramirez.com?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, hopefully they'll find you.
Hopefully so.
Well, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your experiences and your knowledge with us. I've learned something, and I'm sure listeners have also learned. So until next time, I'll say goodbye. Bye.
Thank you, Beverly. The pleasure is mine. Indeed.
Thank you, Bob. Until next time. Thanks for listening to Your Employment Matters with Beverly Williams. If you found this podcast helpful, please subscribe and leave a review. I truly appreciate your support, and that helps other listeners find the podcast. If you have a comment, question, or suggestion, you can reach me at bawilliams@youremploymentmatters.com. My book, Get the Job Done, is available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. Please join me again next week. Until then, remember to embrace change and differences.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, Women's Voices Amplified.